Hey everyone, welcome to Millennium Computers online 5-minute tutorial series. Today's course is going to take a look at how to change filter control titles or text. Now this is a question we actually get all the time, so I'm actually going to make a quick video that's going to walk you through exactly how to do this at the administration level. Now do keep in mind, I've added this to the admin page because this is a strictly administrative function. You can't do this if you do not have access to the administration tab. So here's what happens. We deliver these great reports to you, and on each filter options tab, there's a variety of filter controls. Now, the key here is we try to keep the language as generic as possible, or in many cases, pretty in line with the ERP language that it's used to identify. But the reality is, a lot of you may call things something different. You may actually use those fields to capture different data from your ERP, and you might just call them something different in terms of how your institutional rules have designated that language. So the net result is that not all of these headers are going to be in line with what your end users understand is the data in that field. So let me walk you through how to actually make changes here, because nothing is set in stone and you certainly have the ability to make modifications to your heart's content. What you want to be careful of is making sure that the language you choose is something your end users are going to understand. So let's go ahead and do a quick example. I'm going to work in the human resource reporting application, but this is completely module neutral and is going to work exactly the same way in every single application. Most important thing here is you have to have access to the administration tab, and it's going to usually be on your plus more tab. So let's choose administration. And we're going to bypass data grid columns. We've spent quite a bit of time in other tutorials looking at this page, so we're going to move on to control labels, which is the second tab on this page. Now, here we go. We're given now a list of all the filter controls by default that are delivered to you. In the first column, we have our titles in English. In the second column, if applicable, you might have a second language, or you might not even see this if your institution doesn't use a second language. We also have a sort order, so you're also not stuck with the order in which these control labels are rolled out. You can certainly move those around to your heart's content. You can also disable columns or filter controls that you guys are not using. So let me give you an example. On this page, maybe I'm not using the field division/college. I know that in my ERP, I'm actually not populating the data that this is drawn from, and it's just going to confuse my staff if they click on a filter control and see nothing to choose from. So I can go ahead and uncheck that, and it just means at this stage it's going to hide it. It doesn't mean I can't turn it on down the road. If that's something I begin using at a future date, great, I can come in here and very easily re-enable that. I'm going to also turn off my bargaining code field. Again, this is going to be institution specific and is going to now make a global change. So this means every single person on campus who runs this report is now not going to see those two filter controls on this report. Now, as promised, I also want to show you how to change these titles. There may be language on this page that you guys just don't associate with these fields. So let's make a couple changes. Maybe I don't use the term home ORGN, or a short term for organization. Let's go ahead and change this. I'm going to change that to home department instead of home org or ORGN. Maybe I also want to change the term class to employee class. You can make as many changes here as you want. You could even make all these fields uppercase, lowercase. You can change the text, you can change the order. Now to change the order, remember, you just simply have to change the number sequence in the sort column. The key thing here is the filter controls are going to appear from left to right on the page as they are sorted from smallest to largest. Notice I have two fields here that have the number 20, and that's okay. They're both going to appear on the page. FAST is just going to sort them instead of adhering to a number sequence. Ideally, you want to separate these by about 10 or 15 or even 20 because you want to leave room just in case you change your mind down the road. If you separate these by single integers, you can run into trouble later if you're trying to reinsert a record higher up in the number sequence. If you want to make changes, you can go ahead and do that. Maybe in this case, I'll change it to 25 just so I have a nice coherent numbering sequence. When you're ready, just go ahead and click Save and Apply Changes. And when I save my changes, I am automatically brought back to my filter options page. Now, notice right away a couple changes. Those two fields that we disabled or hid are no longer on this filter options page. That means employees can't accidentally choose filter criteria that isn't available, or more importantly, get confused because there's nothing in those controls. Also notice our class is now represented by employee class, and our home org field is now represented by home department. Remember, there is never an instance where you're stuck with the look, feel, or even text of baseline reports as they are delivered. You have the ability to modify anything on the filter options page, including hiding filter controls, changing the titles or labels of those filter controls, and also changing the default sort order of those controls. Now, before we wrap up, I want to go back into the admin tab and show you one of the newer features that I think you're going to definitely appreciate as an administrator. Let's go back into Plus More and select Administration. Let's go back to the Control Labels tab that we initially worked on. And now check out a couple things here. In previous iterations of FAST, you might remember that if you made changes to baseline reports, they were kind of tough to track. You had to really make sure you understood or had some awareness of what you changed and maybe even what you changed it from in case you wanted to revert to baseline language. Well, now FAST is actually going to keep track of that for you. Notice I have a couple icons on this page. If I hover my cursor over this little information icon, it's showing me the original text here was class. If I hover over the number 25, it was originally 20, and so on. It's going to keep track of all the changes I've made to any baseline report. And in fact, if I decide to change my mind and I've gone too far, I could even click the reset button and revert back to baseline formatting. This is just a great way to be able to visually keep track of the changes made and quickly and easily go back to the way it was if I need to. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for joining us for today's video. I hope it was helpful, and please be sure to stay tuned for new video content as it's released. And as always, please email me your suggestions for new video content at training@mcsl.com.